Hi, I'm Tim Draper. I'm a venture capitalist. I'm so happy to be on Ochakde, Sachin Syal's awesome show. And I'm so glad that I got a chance to be on this show. It is amazing. Everybody should listen to it. And Ochakde says, just do it. And I think you should do that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ochakde Show. I'm your host, Sachin Syal, and I'm a 16-year-old award-winning entrepreneur from the Bay Area. I'm the co-founder and CEO of 3doshas.com. We're a lifestyle company transforming lives through coaching principles inspired by yoga and Ayurveda. If you're new here, this is a talk show or podcast where I interview remarkable and influential entrepreneurs, executives, investors, and inspiring individuals from all walks of life so we can learn from their stories and level up ourselves. The purpose of the show is to inspire you to go for it, which is what Ochakde means. Today's special guest is the one and the only Tim Draper. Tim needs no introduction, but I have a few things to share with you. Tim is a legendary and renowned billionaire venture capital investor. His most prominent investments include Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, Coinbase, Twitch, Skype, Ring, Hotmail, DocuSign, and Robinhood. That's not actually not all of them, those are just a few. Also, he's the founder of Draper Associates, DFJ, and Draper University. He's the author of How to Be the Startup Hero, a guide and textbook for entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. Tim is a proponent of Bitcoin and decentralization. One thing I love about Tim is the amazing Bitcoin ties he wears regularly, and he made a fortune investing in cryptocurrencies, which explains the ties. Yeah, there you go. Do you want to show it one time?
Yeah, there you go. This one is the Bitcoin tie that has the Bitcoin here and then along there. And this is the Draper Associates logo. And then it says hashtag DGov, decentralized government.
I love that. That's amazing.
Big plans here. Big opportunity for all of you to decentralize government.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited about this conversation, and I've really been looking forward to it. So welcome to the Ochakde Show. How are you, and what's new and exciting?
Great. Thank you, Sachin. This is terrific. Great to be here. I like the go for it business, and I think the Ayurvedic and yoga are great idea because I've just been with Sri Ravi Shankar, who's gotten to be a good friend of mine, who's the guru, the huge guru he's got 500 million people who follow him. And he does the Ayurvedic and the yoga along with being vegan. I was vegan for 3 days with him, but then after that I had to go back to meat. I think different bodies have different needs. Yeah. And it's fantastic, and it's a great way of thinking about life. He created this art of living, which is a great way of thinking about the world. He says, hey, we're only here for a little while. Let's be peaceful. Let's have some fun. He's very fun loving. And let's get along. And then I had this conversation with him about trust and freedom. And he said, yes, freedom, trust. You can't have trust without freedom, and you can't have freedom without trust. So it was a whole circular argument about freedom and trust. So we had a lot of fun. And anyway, great to be on the show. I know you got some questions. I'm happy to go through them.
Awesome. Let's do it. Let's start off with something fun. You know that majority of my audience are teens. So let's talk about your teen years. You played several sports from a young age, including tennis, baseball, and basketball. What was that like, and what were you up to as a teen?
I was up to a lot of trouble as a teen. I was trying to explore the world. I just wanted to explore the world. And I liked women. I had a girlfriend. She was the center of my life. I had a penchant for math So that was something I was totally into. And we had just started to explore the world of computers. And so I learned some software. And so that was kind of a passion of mine. And then the rest of schooling was fun for me, except I did have trouble with American history. I wasn't very good at memorizing things. I played a lot of sports. I loved baseball, football, basketball. I was also on the track team and the ski team and a variety of different things. I was at a prep school. I went to Andover, and that was a nice thing because I was sort of set free from my parents for a little while, and I could test things. I could explore. I could try being anyone I wanted to be. So that was fun, and I liked. I was a good, solid athlete, but I was never the best. And so it was sort of a nice thing for me because I was always trying hard. That was a good thing. I think always trying hard is a great way to live your life. Never think that you know it all. Always think, I got to try harder. I got to learn more. I've got to see more. And the thing that we didn't have that you guys have is ChatGPT. That is awesome. You can learn everything through that thing. And it's very simple, and they'll write one page, ask it about string theory, and all of a sudden, whoa, within a page, I know what string theory is. Ask it about, relationships between men and women. All of a sudden you learn all about men and women. Find out about how the opposite sex's body operates. Those are all really important things. And it's a great idea. Just go after it. I think we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
And we didn't have, on the upside, we didn't have Facebook defining what our relationships were. I think it's a lot healthier just to have that all be a little bit uncertain out there, having your relationships be a little uncertain. Because when you're 16, you probably, and maybe you are, with the person you think that you're going to spend your whole life with, and it turns out, odds are you're not.
Yeah.
So being stuck with one person is probably not a good thing. Even though, boy, that first girlfriend, that link was very strong. So let's see, did I do anything entrepreneurial? Yeah, I sold, that was a little later. I sold apples, but that was before I was 16. And I sold oysters, but that was after I was 16. I went door to door selling oysters. It was kind of fun, and this one restaurant showed me that you could cook an oyster in a microwave, and it was delicious. And so I went to show one of my customers, this woman at her house, how you could put an oyster in a microwave and how delicious it was going to be. And she put it in the microwave, she hit the button. 10 seconds later, the oyster exploded all over her microwave, and it stunk everywhere. It was awful.
That sucks.
And she was very nice. She still bought 24 oysters from me, but I don't think, I think she probably threw them out. Anyway, It was a good idea to have some small business that you try maybe during the summer. But when you're in school, be in school, do the thing, meet the people. Oh, and hang out with everybody. Try hanging out with the nerds and the freaks and the jocks and I don't know who else, preps. Make sure that you are not limiting yourself to just one group of people. You're going to find in life that some of your best friends are going to be from a very different clique in high school.
I see. I totally agree with you, and that's great advice. Let's transition to the world of venture capital. Can you explain VC to teens who may be unfamiliar with how investing works?
Yeah, what I do is I go out and ask wealthy people to invest in my fund. And then I have this fund, and it's a blind fund to them. They don't have anything to do with where it gets invested. So then I invest that into maybe 20 companies. And those are startups. They're people who are just getting their business started. And most of them are tied to technology. And so they have these startups. And some of them might be brain-computer interfaces, and some might be new forms of space lodging. Some might be a new way of medically treating a disease. Some might be Bitcoin and tying something to Bitcoin, improving the way we buy food, clothing, and shelter through Bitcoin. Some might be artificial intelligence, like changing the whole nature of what it is to be a lawyer or an accountant or a bookkeeper or a student through AI. So then I invest in about, I don't know, maybe 50 companies, and about half of them go out of business. So how do I make money? Well, if I put $1 million into each of 50 companies and half of them go out of business, then I'm down 25 million, right? But if one of those companies goes up 25 times on the money, we're even. So the great thing about investing in startups is that the upside is somewhat unlimited, and the downside is limited only to the investment that you make. And that is my business. It seems very simple now, and it is on the surface, but a lot of it has to do with people. You'd think that it's all about money. It turns out almost none of it is about money, because what we're doing is we're trying to see people and what their motivations are and what makes them tick and why they want to go into space, or why they want to have a new kind of currency like Bitcoin, or why they want to use artificial intelligence. Because most people are just kind of okay with the way the system works. They're eating fine, they're sleeping fine, everything's fine. But then there are these few individuals who might seem a little odd in high school. But that oddness is what makes them extraordinary when they go out and try to do something new, because they're willing to take long odds at some extraordinary outcome, and they think a little differently. And so I encourage you to first appreciate people who think a little differently, and to try to think differently yourself. One thing that always helped me was smashing two ideas together and seeing if I could come up with something new. And so smash Bitcoin and AI together and see what you can come up with. Or smash personalized medicine with space, see what you can come up with. And those kinds of exercises get your mind thinking creatively. And the schools will try to beat that out of you, because all they really want is like memorize everything. If you don't make any mistakes, you get an A. But what I learned is that my grades were sort of A+ and then C-, a little bit of each, mostly A's, but some C-. And the reasoning was that I always looked at things and that I get this assignment and I think, how will I do this differently? And the teachers didn't all appreciate it. Some did, some didn't. And having a little bit of a twist was always, it made it so much more fun for me. I had trouble memorizing things. I had trouble thinking, why am I filling my brain with all this stuff? When I'd much rather play with my creative brain, my fun brain, And it turned out I learned things better. Another way to learn things better is to teach someone else.
Yeah.
The more you teach someone else, the better off you are. What's weird about our grading system, if you're grading on a curve, is that if you teach someone else, they might outperform you. And so you have a disincentive to teach someone else. Forget about that. Teach them. You will learn so much more. You'll be so much better off. That probably answers that question.
Yeah, I really resonate with exactly what you're saying, and yeah, it's just incredible stuff what you do. I really love what you do. So let's go on to the next question. What do you think is one technological innovation or trend that you believe will have the biggest impact on society in the next decade?
Well, I'm kind of torn because I think it's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because I think Bitcoin can allow a huge economy to operate in a trust. You can trust it because it's all done in software. You don't have some government printing money and making your money worth less. And you don't require accountants because it keeps perfect records. I think Bitcoin might end up being the one. Now, you got to say Bitcoin, blockchain, smart contracts, because all those things are going to have a big impact. A smart contract is a legal contract. Like, let's say we bet on what's your favorite basketball team?
Well, I'm from the Bay Area, so I have to say the Warriors.
Oh, okay. Well, it's mine too. But let's say I'm a Laker fan.
Okay.
So I could bet with you and we could shake on it. But then when the Warriors won, I owe you the money. Well, if we did it on a smart contract, you wouldn't have to come collect from me. It would be automatic. So smart contract is all built into software. So that's really powerful. Think about that. But now think of all the contracts between all the people throughout the world, every deal you did. And by the way, every time you buy something on Amazon, that's a deal. Every time you buy an Apple iPhone, that's a deal. Yeah. Buy a car, that's a deal. Also, make a contract for like working for somebody. That's a deal too. All of that can be done in smart contracts. That's pretty exciting. And then perfect records can be kept because of the blockchain. So I think that's going to be really interesting too. And once I can buy food, clothing, and shelter all in Bitcoin, I don't see a reason to own any fiat currency except maybe to pay taxes until the governments realize that they can collect taxes with Bitcoin alone. So, eventually you'll get there. The other one that is seemingly obvious is that general AI through ChatGPT or whatever else is not only changing how awesome and easy it's going to be to finish your homework, but it's also going to change how researchers operate and how writers operate and how software programmers operate. They're all going to start from another level. It's the equivalent of, long time ago, people would copy the Bible over and over and over. These monks would sit there hunched over and they'd copy the Bible over and over and over by hand with a quill. It was like a pen, but they had to keep dipping it. And that's what they did. And then some genius created the printing press and there was no need for them. It's like, I'm sure they fought this thing tooth and nail. It's just like, the government getting freaked out about having a new currency that they don't control. This is really a major change. So now you got this major change, a lot of great things are going to happen. One thing I would think about if I were you is, since you're in school, think about how would you change education now that ChatGPT exists? If you were the teacher and you were giving out student assignments, and that you'd given out the same student assignments for 20 years, and all of a sudden we got ChatGPT and like all the students can go there. What do you do? How do you teach your students? That could be a really cool thing. And then, third and fourth are probably the having diagnostics and therapeutics both be computerized and having them specific to you, so personalized medicine. And then number four is space. Cool things are happening in space. Just
For sure.
get behind it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I really need to do some deep reflection on what you just said about education and ChatGPT and AI. I mean, I really need to think about that because that's very interesting. Thanks for bringing that into my consciousness, Tim. So let's talk about, we're talking about education. Now let's talk about Draper University. I've seen the pictures of that place inside. It looks super cool. So for all my young aspiring entrepreneurs watching, how can they be part of Draper University and what's the mission of the school?
So Draper University is really for, in general, the average age is about 25 years old. So you got time. Okay. You don't have to hurry to get to Draper University. But if there's something where you have a real passion about something, you say, there is a real problem with, name it, whatever. Climate change, population, whatever. And you feel like, or you solve cancer, whatever it is, come after it. And if you have that kind of a passion, then Draper University is for you. Now, getting that passion, don't hurry. Don't try to get it naturally. I mean, get to your passion place naturally. Don't try to force it. And what we do with Draper University students is very unusual. We are trying to reprogram people. We are trying to get them so that they no longer think the way the institutions have told them to think. And that is a hard thing to do because people have gone through an educational system that's all about building institutional everything. And we are looking for them to build their own institution. It's interesting, at Harvard and Stanford, they say 85% of our students go out and get a job. And what we say is our average student goes out and creates 7 jobs. You start thinking about, I'm going to create my own job. That's actually a nice thing to start thinking about when you're 16 years old. You don't have to, I mean, it's good to work for somebody else. You learn a ton. But for your career, you don't have to work for somebody else. You can create your own job and other people's jobs. So that's a way of thinking entrepreneurial. And I don't think I've answered the whole question. What was
just the mission of the school?
Oh, okay. So the school's mission is really to train heroes. Heroes are people who take long odds at extraordinary outcomes. And so that's what I do. And I thought, how do you make a hero? Well, you really do have to reprogram people to go out and be willing to be that one. You know, the best way I describe it is, I don't know if you guys all play basketball, but when the basketball leaves the court and goes off into some other place, most of the people just sit there and they say, well, I don't want to stand out. I don't want to. But the hero goes and gets the basketball, you know, or the baseball goes into the neighbor's yard. The hero goes and gets that baseball. The hero is willing to stand out. The hero is willing to be the embarrassed person. So I think if I were to give advice to 16-year-olds, I would say everything you do is embarrassing. So just do it. Don't sweat it. Just do it. It's so much better to do something than to not do it and sit around and talk about somebody else who did it. Mm-hmm. It turns out the optimist is the one who goes and picks up that ball. And while the pessimist is often right for the time being, the optimist is always right for the long term, and the pessimist stays poor and the optimist gets rich. So be the one to go get the ball. Be the one to stand out. Don't be afraid to be embarrassed. Go ahead. Be embarrassed. Be the weird one. Doesn't matter. I mean, you still have to get dates. Sometimes that's a little tricky.
That's true. That's true.
If you're hanging out there too far. And you don't want to hang out too far. You want to hang out a little bit. What I learned with my partners was, first time I did something crazy, they looked at me and go, "Why are you doing that? You're crazy. What is that crazy thing you're doing?" Then the second time I did something crazy, it was like, "You are out of your mind. What are you doing? It's crazy." Third time I did something crazy, they went, "Oh, that's just Tim." Very simple, great way to operate. I can do anything now because I did the 3 crazy things. So think about that.
Awesome.
The other thing I did, speaking of crazy, is I started a show. They told me, one of the very important PR guys in the world, Edelman, he said, "Be your own media company." And I hadn't really thought about that too much as a venture capitalist, but when I heard it, I thought, how would I do that? So I tried a podcast. It didn't really go anywhere. Yours is probably more popular than mine was. I tried a Twitch show. If you can get a hold of those, they're probably classics because it was nuts. I tried Startup U, which was a reality show around the school, which was a great show, but poorly marketed. And then I started this Meet the Drapers, which was just filming the stuff I do. I interview entrepreneurs. So I started interviewing entrepreneurs, and we started to get a following. And that following grew and grew and grew. And now we have 40 million viewers of Meet the Drapers. Wow. And it's a really fun show. And now we had Sri Ravi Shankar. Yeah. We had the Cardinal Turkson, who's probably the next Pope. We had all these guys as guest judges because it's such a big deal now. And then it gets to be a bigger deal. Yeah. So just know that starting something is a little odd and a little embarrassing at first. But if you just stick with it, like point in a direction, get your North Star, and go and stay with it, eventually something cool will happen for you.
Well, I think that's happened for me already, because when I started this podcast, I started interviewing a bunch of people. And I think now that I have you on my show, I'm like exactly what you're saying. I did all those good things. I stayed with it. And now I got to interview you. So all the other teenagers watching, I agree with what Tim is saying. Okay. Do you want to make any bold predictions about the future exclusively on my show?
Yeah, here's a bold prediction. Governments are going to have to compete for you. Right now, they realize that, but they're freaking out. So they're trying to retreat back to land-based monopolies where they are all tied to this geographic territory, and that's the way it works. But there are going to be a few governments that are starting to provide services that are 11 miles offshore, or they're up in space or whatever, and they're going to start providing services that are better than the government services that you're getting. I think governments are going to have to compete for you. Also, you can move from country to country to country now, state to state to state. Yeah. And the bad governments are the ones that are trying to control everybody. And that doesn't work. That's socialism. It doesn't work. Capitalism works. Capitalism forces people into a situation where they have to work, and they have to learn, and they work harder than they ever imagined they would, and they create more economic value than they ever thought they would. Just simple. If you ever want to do a research thing on this, do South Korea versus North Korea after the Korean War. South Korea was capitalist, North Korea was socialist. The capitalist system absolutely blew the doors off the communist socialist system. And why? Well, a weak leader tries to control their people. if I made you king of the world today,
Mm-hmm.
if the first thing you're thinking is, I need to tell everybody what to do, that's a weak leader. If the first thing you're thinking is, I trust people, I'm going to set them free and I'm going to let them do what they need to do, that's a strong leader. That's a George Washington. That's a Deng Xiaoping. That's a powerful leader. That's where your economy grows at 10% a year. A weak leader who tries to control everybody, which, by the way, we have a lot of them around the world right now, they flatten the economy. It doesn't grow, nothing changes, because all you're relying on is the creativity of one person, that leader, and nobody else. But there are 8 billion of us out here. And if a leader sets us free, that's 8 billion minds that can grow the economy. That's a big deal. That's going to grow. That amazing thing's going to happen because you've got a great imagination. I've got a great imagination, and so do the other 7,999,000,000 whatever people out there. They all have some creativity, and they will all, if set free, will eventually do something really cool and creative. Now, there's another thing. If I say, okay, you're free, you're sitting there in a field that's completely open, and I say you're free, that's scary. For almost everybody, that's scary. It's like, well, wait, what do I do? So sometimes people go, well, I kind of like my government telling me what to do because then I'll just do it. And if I'm in this totally open field, then what do I do? Well, it turns out that it's scary at first, and then you realize, oh, it's a totally open field, but there's all this structure already built into our world, and I can build from there, and that is not as scary. So trust people, set them free. Freedom works. Capitalism works. People are incentivized the right way. Socialism doesn't work, never has, because you're relying on one person's creativity. It's just that one leader. It's like if you're in Russia right now, you got to do whatever that idiot says. If you're in China right now, you got to do whatever that idiot says. But fortunately, there are other countries that are sort of, those people turn over, and you can get a new leader. If this one is too controlling, you can get a new leader who trusts people and sets them free.
Totally agree, and thanks for sharing that. So Tim, these are the last 2 questions that I asked all my guests, but you already answered the first one, which is what's your best advice for teens? But we can go to the next one, which is what was your favorite part of being on my show?
I like the questions. There's another great part of being on your show, and that is it's rare that I get a chance to talk to a bunch of 16-year-olds. I think that and the fact that they might be listening. When I was 16, I didn't really want to listen to anybody. And I think that's probably true of a lot of you, but I appreciate you spending the time. Turns out, if you have a little patience, old guys are okay. You'll learn a lot from old guys. And I learned, I'm a part of this group, and they're mostly older people. And what I learned was what kind of an old guy I want to be. And it was a good way to look at the world, and that helps. So maybe that'll help you. Good. Other thoughts about being on your show are, who you end up with is probably really important. Your spouse, really important. You lead with your heart, but then occasionally use your head. Make sure that, your heart will know, but then your head will say, this is going to work out a long time.
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
meet the parents.
Yeah. I
Because
agree.
that's what you're going to
Yeah.
get.
Okay. Well, guys, this was an extraordinary episode. We did it. We secured and finished an interview with Timothy Cook Draper. Tim, thanks for being on the show. Anything else you'd like to share before we end? Just anything?
No, this was great, Sachin. I think I hope I got through to a few people, and I hope they learn something and they get a chance to live their life with a little more zest and freedom and energy and enthusiasm because of it.
Of course, yeah. A lot of teens are going to be watching this. They actually knew you, so they're super excited that I was getting the opportunity to interview you. We're both in the Bay Area. We could probably meet in person soon. Let me know if you're down. We can figure something out. That'd be awesome.
Sure.
I could probably come to Draper University. As I said, I love the inside of it. It looks super cool.
They're in class now. They're in session now. They're doing a lot of weird stuff.
Awesome. That was awesome. Guys, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.